On today's witch word of the day, dreamwalking. Verb. Dreamwalking is a magical practice that involves projecting one's consciousness into another universe or realm. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe, dreamwalking is a spell in the Darkhold that allows users to possess an alternate version of themselves. The spell allows the caster to project their consciousness into another universe, reanimate a deceased variant of themselves, and transfer their powers to the variant. The spell has limitations, including the need for a functioning Darkhold book or castle, and the fact that it doesn't last very long. It also refers to a new age technique for connecting with others through dreams or to practice lucid dreaming. It can be a way to deepen one's connection to the Earth and the web of life.
Scarlet Witch.
You haven't even read that?
Wait, what are you doing with the book?
So he has the confidence to finish the story.
Hear now the words of the witches.
Can you hear the words of the witches? Yeah, the words of the witches.
Welcome to Words of the Witches, the Charmed podcast that will guide you through the lesser-known published lore of the Charmed universe.
In this night and in this hour, we call upon our fanboy power, bringing education and stupefaction to all of you.
Together, we will use our knowledge and reverence abundantly, but also find ourselves sassy and delightful.
Which is why we will truly be charmed.
So hello, spell worders. This is episode 140 of Words of the Witches, and I am Kevin, your resident charmed resource.
And I'm Sean, and I'm just happy to be here.
Welcome. So today we will finish the Book of 3, Volume 2. How exciting is that? Woohoo! That is the topic of today. But we did have a poll last week. Do you want to tell us what it is?
Yeah, so it was, should Piper, Patty, and Penny have been able to vanquish the Hollow since with the power of 3? And it got some responses, Kevin.
Yeah. First of all, I have to correct you because you said vanquish. It's actually banish. Normally it wouldn't be a problem, but because the Hollow can't actually be vanquished. It's one of those things that can't be vanquished.
Yeah. I'm Kevin. Yeah.
How do you think it went down?
I'm going to say more people said no, they should not have been able to.
Okay.
But I think it's close.
So I'll do YouTube first. YouTube, we had 21 votes. 24% said no and 76% said yes.
Wow.
And on Instagram, 58 people, 32% said no, and 122, 68% said yes.
Wow. So they were the minority.
We're the minority. And I'm going to read two comments. People had a lot of comments, but I'm going to read two of them. This is the one for yes. This is James 3 Lion. He says yes because this isn't banishing the Hollow. It's ejecting it from a host. Different spell, different requirements. So they heavily implied that it was the power of 3, but I don't think they explicitly said it was the power of 3 spell, which is very infuriating. And then Ryan Tucker says the way they handled the Hollow in the final episodes felt like a stretch. The whole point of the Hollow was that it could only be contained when both good and evil worked together, yet they completely abandoned that rule. It didn't make much sense for Piper, Patty, and Grams to be the ones banishing it. If anything, bringing back Shannon and Julian for those last episodes would have been a much more fitting way to contain the Hollow and properly close out the series. It would have honored the show's core mythology and given longtime fans the closure they deserved. Yeah. This whole thing with the Hollow, this whole poll, I thought it would be a fun little exercise, but it got me in my brain.
Uh-oh.
So it got me thinking about like how the Hollow works. You know, was this really a power of 3 spell? You know, and there's a whole thing with them needing charmed magic to even summon the Hollow, which is stupid. So I think I'm going to have to do a whole bonus episode about the Hollow and explore the ins and outs of it and the theories, because there's a lot on my mind and a lot of confusion and a lot of stupidness with the Hollow. And hopefully we can maybe sort out a way to make it make sense. I also, we got a request to do a whole episode on teleportation powers. So I'm going to do a bonus episode on teleportation powers too. So now I have 2 of those on the agenda for whenever I feel like putting them in.
Nice.
Let's get into manor keeping.
You can't just vanquish an entire house, especially not our house. People are gonna notice.
manner keeping.
Now, the problem isn't the manner, it's the manner in which it was treated.
A good witch is a clean witch.
First things first, last week I may have made a minor mistake.
Oh no.
Well, technically not, but also yes. So, last week I talked about how the book talks about that in Spin City, how Phoebe was trying to have the little girl that she saw in her vision, and we're like, no, she didn't. She only saw that she was pregnant. Do you remember this?
Mm-hmm.
Which is true. So technically I'm not wrong, but technically neither is the book. Because though Phoebe does not see the little girl in that vision, Piper does say in that vision that we need to make sure our little niece is doing okay. So they did signify that they knew it was a girl, even though we didn't see the girl.
Okay, interessant.
The little girl she saw in her vision, which she didn't see the little girl, but she knew she had a little girl. So I'm going to say it's a wash. Neither of us are wrong, neither of us are right in that scenario. Okay. And Spellworders, you may have noticed that this entire Book of 3 Volume 2 coverage, we didn't have a guest at all. And that's because I realized a lot of this type of book is just regurgitating information. And even though we had guests during our coverage of the first Book of 3, I thought that we'd rather have guests when they can bring more of their own analysis into it and really have something they can chew on and have fun with. So due to that nature, that's why we didn't have any guests for this. So it's just the two of us to make it simple and easy and nice.
Yay.
But Sean, tell us if you have any more updates.
I do not.
Okay. The anticipation was killing me right there. Oh my goodness. So we are finishing off the Book of 3 Volume 2, written by Diana G. Gallagher, Paul Ruditis, and Phyllis Ungerleider. And today we are covering Behind the Scenes. And if you remember correctly, there was some behind the scenes sections of the episode guide, which we will now be talking about this episode. So we'll be covering that. And the actual behind the scenes section covered page 276 to 302. It was quite short. But yeah, well, I guess we'll just get started. I think this episode is going to be like the episode of Did You Knows? Because we're just going to be mentioning like things that we found fun or interesting, noteworthy things. It's going to be a fun fact corner today. We're going to have a ball.
Yeah.
So Sean, anything from the episode guide section that struck out to you?
I'm going to be very honest. I found the behind the scenes in the episode guide very boring. Like, it was a lot of like, oh, we couldn't find a long enough hair for Phoebe, so I put multiple wigs together. And I'm like, cool, where's the juicy gossip? So, I don't know. I didn't really have much from the behind the scenes in the episode. I did take some notes for like the behind the scenes later, though, in the actual section.
Well, it's funny. During the episode guide, there were some parts that I thought were very interesting and some parts that I'm like, okay, that doesn't need to be in here. So I think it was a mixture of both. But maybe because of my history with the show and my like crazy obsession, I was like, ooh, this is good. I like this information. Just like having the knowledge of it. So I actually took quite a bit of notes.
Okay.
That I think people would like. So I'll just go down the list. Valhalla was shot at the Los Angeles Arboretum. Arboretum. The trees. The tree place. Arboretum. So it was filmed right there in LA in the Bamboo Grove section, and they just built some stuff to play with, which is kind of cool. They also had issues on who was going to bring Smash Mouth's actual equipment to the beach when Smash Mouth played on the beach. Like, oh, who's going to bring it? We got to coordinate with the agent. And I'm like, oh my. And Forget Me Not, John Kretschmer was very organized with his shot list, especially for the dragon. They even had a wireframe model of a dragon that they got to play with shots with, which I thought was pretty cool. So they can figure out the timing and placement of it all. And when they wanted to shoot the fireball out of that famous tunnel that you can visit, like everything's in your neighborhood, Sean.
Yeah.
That famous tunnel, and when they wanted to shoot the fireball out there, they had to work with the fire marshal who was concerned by the dry brush nearby, and he said that if the winds are faster than 15 miles per hour, I'm shutting down this whole thing.
Wow.
I'm like, oh yeah, so that was pretty cool. Rose thought it was stupid that Paige would quit her job as a social worker to temp so that she could help people, because she's like, wasn't she helping people in social work? So Rose was very confused by Paige's employment overall, and and then she was going on to say, she's like, I think Paige should get a job at Kmart, because then she can help people find their bra size, and it would be super funny. And in Sword in the City, it was said that they hand built all of the Excalibur swords. But I was like, that was interesting, because I thought because I have a replica Excalibur sword made by people who did it. So maybe they bought one of those and they just made more of them based off that one, because the design already existed. So, and they filmed on the Grossman property of Hidden Valley for a lot of that episode. For the Lady in the Lake part, I believe. And the sword master that Nooner Sadi, the stunt coordinator, brought in to choreograph the fights actually ended up being cast as the Dark Knight in the episode. So it was kind of fun. Mm-hmm. And Holly finds it funny and creepy that she was pregnant but also got stabbed in the gut. Make a note of that. She's like, it's so funny. I'm pregnant, but I got stabbed in the gut in the episode.
I know
it
why.
Mm-hmm. In Legend of Sleepy Hollow, they cut holes into the table but made it different levels so that it was believable. And then when they filmed it, they merged a shot with nobody in there going underneath, and then they merged it with one of them in there so that by the time it moved, you didn't see anybody in there, so it sold it better. And that's funny because they had the manor floors were made out of linoleum, I guess, so they had to lay stuff over it so that the horse could function. Otherwise, it would be slipping and sliding in the manor. And they had to put special horseshoes on the horse. Oh, I thought this was funny. I forget who it was, but it's one of the crew members, straight from people on set. They admitted that they're trying to make everything as sexy as they can get, especially the girls. So people right from crew said this. Mm-hmm. Season 7, they were in much smaller sound stages. Not bigger ones, but that kitchen looked huge, so they must have made use of the space. And then they were very excited because now they have a built-in New York street that they could use, which they do use quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look, the Bear Witch Project. Sean's favorite part, where Phoebe has to put 3 wigs together because they don't make wigs like that anymore.
Yep.
Charmed Noir, the whole episode was shot in color, but then it was removed where it needed to be in post. So that's kind of fun. I would like to see the color version now. I'm curious.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And Once in a Blue Moon, apparently the sisters are all on their periods together in real life. That's in the next section.
Oh,
that's later. That is later.
That's in the yeah. Oh, but put a pin in that because I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all the Brad Kern section. Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
This was interesting to me. The Golden Gate Bridge hangout spot was only intended to be seen once, and the first time it was all CG. It was the whole thing was just green screen. They didn't even have a built-in Golden Gate set. But then each director came in and saw what the last person did. They're like, oh, I want to use that. I want to do that. So then they had to build the wood piece set, and they use it all the time because the directors of the episodes wanted them. So isn't that funny? It was only supposed to be used once.
That is funny.
Since the beginning of the show, Brad kept saying that we need a Billy Zane character. And it worked out that Pam Shea was a talent executive on the show. She had the same agent as Billy Zane, and they asked, and he was available. Just was really lucky. In The 7-Year Witch, Julian was back on set for 1 day only because he was so busy on the Nip Tuck, and he had 11 pages of script, and they didn't think he would come back because he was such a big star now, but he did because he loved that.
Aww.
Yeah. So it says that they tried not to shoot the Wyatts in the same room as the demons because they did it one time, and Christopher, one of the twin boys who played Wyatt, freaked out and was super scared.
Cute.
So they were no longer traumatizing children.
Yeah. That's the way The Shining was. The little boy had no idea he was in a horror film because they shot everything without him.
Yeah, that's clever. At the wrap party of season 7, Rose wasn't even there because she was out of the country shooting. I think that was the Elvis movie at that time. She was playing Anne Margaret.
Mm-hmm.
Alyssa Milano was actually the first to tell fans that there was going to be an 8th season on safesearching.com, her website, because she felt the audience deserved to know since they were so incredibly concerned the entire time. So once she found out, she was like, I'm telling people. Which is nice. Mm-hmm. And Nooner Sadi, again, the stunt coordinator, he was actually holding out and kept hoping Charmed would return, and he actually turned down another TV show just like an hour or two before he got the call that season 8 was a go. He had a feeling. Can you imagine if he accepted the other job and then got the season 8 call?
I know, it's crazy. Can I cancel?
Like, I'm sorry I lied. I can't do that.
Yeah.
Season 8 is also the year that Daniela Gwishwend... Gwishwend... can't say it. Daniela Gschwendner. She took over as costume designer in season 8, but she also worked closely with Eilish as costume supervisor. You know what's interesting? Daniela Gschwendner, or whatever, she was actually working on costumes on Charmed longer than Eilish because she was there since season 1. But she wasn't the actual head costumer. Because the first season was Molly Harris Campbell was the lead costume designer, and Daniela was helping out. And then Eilish came in season 2 to 7, where Daniela was kind of helping out. Not in every episode, but throughout the seasons. And then finally, after Eilish left, Daniela became the lead in season 8. So, that's kind of cool. Actually, did you know Eilish went on to do, like, a bunch of Marvel movies and TV shows? She's been working in Marvel since 2008. So she did, like, Iron Man and a lot of the Avengers and things. It's pretty crazy. So go Eilish, who was on Charmed and now doing Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so season 8 notes. I don't have as many. So Christopher Simmons ended up doing the magic moves on film, you know, when they're like vanquishing the demons in the premiere, Still Charmed to Kicking. Like, ah. And Maria, the twins' mother, said that they practiced for 2 weeks at home. So, that was cute. And in Desperate Housewitches, the twins thought the pumpkin costume was super hot and wanted to take it off immediately after they put it on them. But I thought it was cute because they talked about how they felt really at home with the other kids on set because there was like a classroom. So they loved like playing with the kids and feeling like normal kids then. And they said that this episode was about parenthood and it really resonated with Holly, which was nice. Kill Bill Volume 1. In the script, the Dogen was described as Phantom of the Opera meets Darth Vader. And in Battle of the Hexes, Liz Phair's Somebody's Miracle was performed specifically to highlight that through differences in men and women and quarreling in relationships, there is still something beautiful when you come together. So it was a specific, like, thematic song. And in Engaged and Confused, Rose wanted Paige to be married in an ugly Bon Jovi era gown, and she wanted the bridesmaids to be in hideous electric blue gowns. She was like, that would be so great, but Paige wouldn't like that. She's like, the character Paige wouldn't like that, but I want that. We love Rose so much.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's all I had for the episode notes. Let's move into the behind the scenes from behind the scenes. So this is the actual section. Did you have anything in the cast section? I mean, that was pretty straightforward, I thought.
Yeah, I thought so too. It was all just kind of like, I don't know, blase-da. They told us stuff we already kind of knew.
Rose, I thought this was funny. Rose was offered a producer role as well, like Holly and Alyssa, but she turned it down because she had no interest and there was no pay increase.
Oh, that's funny.
She's like, no, I don't really want to do that. You're not paying me anymore? No. Why would I take on more work? That's stupid.
Yeah.
Kaylee was brought in with hopes of staying for a spin-off series, which we knew. But with the WB merging into the CW, it was dropped. But no worries. Kaylee had another pilot lined up. I wonder what that was.
Yeah, I don't know. It's probably a big bang, though.
Yeah. It all started with a big bang. Yeah.
I have a theory.
And Brad Kern... I have a theory. And then Brad Kern said he intended to bring Dorian back at some point in season 8. That was always his idea. But then with everything to tie up, there wasn't a natural way to do it, which I can kind of see that. I mean, of course, you can make up anything, but I guess with the budget you have and the restrictions you have to get certain scenes in, that one I understand. Especially since they did kind of wrap up his story in season 7. To bring him back, just to say you can bring him back without having a reason for it would be like fodder, I think. So I get it. This one makes a little bit more sense to me.
Yeah, I found it interesting. I hate to admit, I found Brad Kern's section the most interesting, but it was also the longest, so that's why.
Yeah.
But I like that he gave props to Brian Krause. Brian was brought on for 22 episodes, and then of course the network came back and said we can afford 10. So the fact that Brian was like, well, if I only take 10 and the show can keep going, I'm fine with that. So he basically like took a pay cut to let the show continue, which is awesome.
Right. And he did get a haircut between his cut time too.
Yeah,
Which
he
is
did.
great.
I also thought it was interesting that Brad wrote the opening of season 6. What season was it? It was gonna be Excalibur. Was it season 8? No, it was
Season
season
6.
6. Yeah, season 6. I thought so because it was Valhalla of the Dolls that took its place. The network said they didn't like his Excalibur idea, so he was kind of like, "Well, fuck you! I'm going to put it in a later episode."
Yeah, that was super interesting to me. He wanted the Excalibur idea to be like a 2-hour premiere of season 6, and then the studio rejected it. But it was interesting because he wanted to do a love triangle thing with Piper and Leo, like playing the characters of Lancelot and Guinevere and stuff. I was like, interesting. Like, I would love to see that.
Yeah, that's what I like too, because it fits into with what was going on at that time. It's almost like there's an episode in season 2 of Buffy where Angel has turned evil and Buffy's like depressed that her man's evil, but they get possessed by ghosts who are in love with each other, so they play out the life of these ghosts. It was so good. I feel like this would have been like that.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Because you made it to season 3.
Yeah. This triggered me a little bit.
Uh-oh.
Brad Kern says that the original plan for Chris was to be Wyatt's brother, but if it didn't work, that they'd think of something else. That sounds like BS to me, but maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I wrote that down too because we had read earlier that there wasn't a plan for him to be Chris in the beginning.
Well, we didn't read that. I just said that because of things that I read about other places. But still, based on what I know and what Drew Fuller has said, because Drew Fuller has told me things that he was supposed to be other things originally. So it's Brad Kern saying like, yeah, he was originally going to be the brother, but I didn't tell anybody, and so I came up with other ideas. Could you imagine? Like, I feel like he's just like trying to cover for something to me.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny too that Alyssa Milano actually called Brad to tell him that Holly was pregnant because Holly thought he would be mad, so she didn't want to call him.
Yeah, that was funny. And then he got all excited because it fit with like the story that was going on.
Yeah,
at
he's
the time.
like, "Are you kidding me? Of course."
Yeah.
Yeah, Brad Kern said that in season 7, the show looked bigger, even though the budget was smaller and their space was smaller. And you and I have talked about season 7 money, how it was huge multiple times. So they really gave the illusion that they were rolling in it when it was actually the opposite. I think that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. And I think I like that he points out, because I think we asked this question too. Why did they cut Brian if they brought in Kaylee Cuoco? And I like that he gives us the answer that the network forced Kaylee into it. He had no choice, and he actually fought them. He didn't want Kaylee. He didn't want to make a new character.
Right.
But then he got excited and made it work. But yeah, so he dispelled that kind of myth that we swapped one for the other.
And Brad and Billy Zane collaborated on the Drake character. They went out to dinner and talked about how they're going to make the character, which is fun. Because Billy was always kind of tired of always being the bad guy in things. He's like, I'm always the bad guy. And so Brad Kern's like, we want you to play a demon. He's like, I'm always a demon.
Can I be a lovable demon?
Yeah, can we be a lovable demon? So they worked together to make him like that reformed leading man character that we loved, which is pretty cool.
I think that makes his character stand out even more, though, because he was different than just the regular old demon.
Mm-hmm. And I thought it was funny that Brad kept writing the show as if Brian was coming back, even though he didn't know for sure if he could bring him back at the end.
Yeah.
Which is like, oh man, like that's risky.
They would have figured
it out. It worked out. I'm glad it worked out. Yeah, someone would have took a cut or something to bring him back.
Yeah, or it would have been something where Piper is sitting and there's a hand on her hand and she turns and says Leo, but we never actually see him. It would have been something like that. They would have made it work.
Yeah. I know you mentioned the Once in a Blue Moon thing, so bring that up for us.
So Brad Kern talks about how, when women work together, are in close contact long enough, they kind of sync up on their periods. So that's kind of what inspired Once in a Blue Moon. But it's still a fucking awful episode. And there was a lot of talk in one of the behind the scenes about how, they had to get the shots just right because they only had the hellhounds for, a limited time. And I'm like, maybe that's why they look so bad. Because they were rushing these,
Yeah.
these dogs.
These effects, yeah. And I don't know, Brad Kern talking about the real life menstrual cycles of the actresses in relation to
Not
Once in a
great.
Blue Moon, it felt very slimy and icky to me. Especially knowing his history with things. That was like, why? What? That is so weird, Brad Kern.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, these girls are on their period. I'm gonna write an episode about that. Like, come on.
Yeah, I wonder what the girls thought about that.
Yeah, I would have been upset.
Yeah.
So that's even more reason to hate the episode now.
Yeah.
Did you have anything for put that in my canonical hat?
Canonical.
You know I don't.
I do.
Uh-oh.
Which is weird because I didn't expect to have anything for this one because it's like behind the scenes, it's people talking about their experience. But Brad Kern does not know Charmed as much as he thinks he does.
Uh-oh.
So, first of all, Brad said that Alyssa Milano had green scales on her when she was a mermaid. Green scales? Have you seen the episode? Gold, blatantly gold. They're obviously gold. Why did you say green?
Did you even watch the show, Tamar?
It was the. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, are you? Because I know, yeah, I know he made the Mermaids pilot that never got picked up. So maybe he was thinking about maybe that show had green scales. I don't know, but I'm like, that was weird. And this is another thing. Remember we talked about Holly said that Sword in the City was weird because she got stabbed in the stomach while she was pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Brad Kern said that there was originally a scene where Pepper got stabbed in the stomach, but because she was pregnant, they had to change that. Like, my guy, it's in there. It was shot. It's in the episode. I was like, are you kidding me right now? That made me laugh so much. Okay, and then I Dream of Phoebe. Brad quoted Phoebe in 6:15 as, "Why am I always the one that's stuck with the bad wig?" And it really emphasized the bad wig part because he said they wrote bad hairdo, but she said bad wig, and that was so perfect that she said bad wig. But she never said bad wig. The exact quote on the episode was, "And why do I always get stuck with the wig? And why do I always get stuck with the wig? Not why am I always the one that's stuck with the bad wig?" So I'm like, all right. Okay, you're paraphrasing there. So. Also, the author, this is on the author, they spelled Balthazar wrong. It's supposed to be Belthazor, but he spelled it Balthazar. Balthazar instead of Balthazar.
Balthazar.
Yeah, I found quite a few. I was surprised.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's the book. Huzzah!
Huzzah.
What are your overall thoughts about this one?
For the most part, it's a nice companion piece. It has some cool stuff. But yeah, you would expect it to be a little more on par for what it is. Like, this is the ultimate companion, and it should have the ultimate correct information.
I mean, I do think it's a great resource. It's very much like the other book of three. But yeah, there's definitely wrong things. There's things that bother me. I mean, I wouldn't say, do you think the book of three, part one or part two is better? Because they're all, it's like one book. Together they make up the complete thing. So it's not fair to compare them.
No.
So there it is. The book of three, volume 2. I guess the final thing then today is P is for Pole.
Piper. You mean it's just you and Prue, huh?
Phoebe? Phoebe, you there?
And a big hello to you too, Penny.
Come on, Patty. The rest is up to them.
Paige. My name is Paige.
Another P, imagine that.
P is for Pole. And today's P is for Pole is something that we hinted at a little bit earlier in the episode. Was Chris always going to be Wyatt's brother? What do you think? Do you agree with Brad that he thought of it from the beginning, or do you think that they had to come up with it on the spot later?
I'm going to say no, just because, A, I don't trust Brad Kern, so anything he says, I'm going to go opposite. But also, like we talked about with Nugent, he was very flirty with the sisters in the beginning, and he knows those are his aunts, so that doesn't really fit.
Yeah, and Brad's like, "You were trying to throw you off." I'm like, "No, you didn't know what you were doing."
Yeah. I was surprised to hear that some people thought it was even Wyatt at the time that the show was
That's true. They did.
Mm-hmm.
So, But yeah, my answer is no as well. I just don't think so. It doesn't make any sense otherwise. Yeah, but I'm curious to see what people think. I'll probably watch them all say yes like they did this last poll. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But
Traitors.
yeah, so we'll see what I know, traitors. But yeah, we'll see how it goes next week when we start our next book. The next book is going to be called Investigating Charmed, and it's another essay book, kind of like Totally Charmed was. But I believe this one's a more academic, and hopefully it's written better. We'll see. But that's what's on the agenda starting next week. Your destiny still awaits. Oh wait, no. You gotta say where we're from.
My name's Sean Perez.
Sean.
You can find me on Instagram or TikTok, along with our Solving for X and X-Men Taos podcast. You can find in the same places, and YouTube, where we're talking about X-Men Evolution, finishing up season 2 right now. Woohoo!
Woohoo! Yeah, you can find this podcast at Words of the Witches on Facebook, Instagram, and I finally made a post on the Blue Sky. We're on Words of the Witches Blue Sky, whatever it is. So yeah, we're in Blue Sky now. You just search Words of the Witches, maybe you'll find it. I don't know. And then you can find my personal Instagram at KGZ87. So
Yay!
Yeah. Your destiny still awaits, Spellwinners.
Oh.
Magic.